Hey, my name's Trent Vish, and the topic I decided to choose to discuss is Title IX for the project. One reason I really wanted to decide to talk about Title IX is because I truly do think it's one of the most important legal aspects that goes on in school systems, all the way from K 12 to college and stuff like that. It's just so important because it protects so many people of their rights as, like I said, citizens, students, and everything else. Start off, what is Title IX? I think the very first thing to understand with Title IX is asking, you got to know the definition. So the definition of Title IX states, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So the main thing to come from this with Title IX, it is a civil rights law. And I don't think that's what a whole lot of people really perceive it as. Because most time people say Title IX, they think, oh, female athletics, female athletics. But in reality, it's a civil rights law. So it's covering males, females, and then later on in the presentation, I'm going to get more towards the more progressive movements and stuff like that. Like I said, it is a civil rights law that was passed in 1972. And like I said, if it's federally funded, you are protected under Title IX. So schools, local state agencies, other variations. Some statistics I actually found of that. Approximately 7,600 school districts, 5,000 post-secondary institutions, including charter schools, for-profit schools, libraries, and museums that receive this federal assistance. These institutions is the ones that are covered underneath Title IX. And then you see the picture right here. You got a female equals a male, male equals female. That's just showing you right there the civil rights law, looking for equality based on sex. So not trying to discriminate just because of your sex. The issue with Title IX, you can look back from the early history in the United States. Just before here, like I said, up in 1972, females were widely discriminated against. And if you want to look back even farther, not even up till 1920 were white women even allowed to vote, and that's not even including African American women. So just totally throwing the whole race aspect of discrimination to the side. This is just white women weren't even allowed to vote until 1920. Until 1972 was when Title IX was passed. So that just shows you how far we've come as a society, implementing Title IX, not discriminating, especially females, males, and anyone like that. With education especially, there's always been discriminations going on since public education has started, and it's primarily been geared towards females. That brings in the aspect of equal pay. Some examples of female teachers receiving equal pay, giving favorites to male teachers, male administrators, giving preference to male athletics, male coaches. That was pretty much the big issue, and that's kind of what arised Title IX. But like I said, it was geared towards bringing equality to all sexes, but the biggest benefactors of this was women. Like I said, inferior academic programs, not letting female students in, inferior athletics, and even sexual harassment too, which a lot of people don't even really think of with Title IX, but that does protect you underneath Title IX. Like I said, not just females, the one that females primarily faced the uphill battle, but it's not the only thing. That's the big thing I'm trying to get people to understand is that Title IX is not just for females. It's for no discrimination on the basis of your sex at all. And then the recent years is what's really making Title IX being under scrutiny and for people to actually start talking about it more. With the LGBTQ community becoming more acceptance and having certain movements such as the Me Too movement, the Time's Up movement, transgender movement. These movements have worked their way into public education, and it's kind of putting people in situations that they never really had to deal with before. So it's really making Title IX possibly be put under scrutiny, maybe get amended here and there. And it's really making some interesting court cases and how public education is going to go along in the future. And with issues with Title IX, I've personally seen these in my very own school. Even though I've only been there for a year, I have seen it. So it is of utmost importance that I believe that we follow it and, like I said, grow as a community. So that's the issue. Why is it a concern? The biggest concern right there is, like I said, it's a civil rights issue. I don't care if you're male, female, like I said, if you're gay, straight, lesbian, if your gender, you're saying non-binary, anything like that. That doesn't matter. It's a civil rights issue. So as long everyone is equal in here, no discrimination on that. But it also has discriminations against sexual assault, sexual harassment, and even domestic violence. So it's kind of weird because you think in K through 12, where's domestic violence going to come, or sexual harassment or anything like that? But under Title IX, federally funded institutions, so a bunch of college cases, a bunch of colleges, they're protected under Title IX with athletics, and that's where you bring in the domestic violence, the sexual harassment, the sexual assault. That's not as much in middle schools. It is prevalent, but with the post-secondary education, that's protected as well. And a thing, too, that's interesting is not protecting just students, but also protects adults. And there's been many court cases about this as well. Like I said, more and more people are speaking up now with Title IX, just because I think everyone's getting more of the acceptance and more of a getting away from this, just how things have been before. Now I have a voice and I know I'm protected, so I'm going to use that protection of my rights. And like I said, it's a concern because if you can't feel safe and be inclusive in federally funded institutions such as school or anything like that, I mean, that's not right. That's against your civil rights and against the law. So under law, it's important for that. In cases for middle school, which we teach, it's important because many female teachers and students are prone to face sexual harassments. Like I said, not saying males cannot face sexual harassments, because they do, but it's more likely for female students and teachers to face sexual harassments than protected by that. And then also female students and also female teachers want to participate or coach opposite sex sports. And with the sports, there's always been insufficient funding for female athletics. But I just want to stress, it's not just a female aspect on here. I'll say Title IX protects males as well. It's just more prevalent, and that's why Title IX was created. It protects anyone from students, teachers, coaches, administrators. And the thing I really like, it erases the stigma of just how things have been, because there's always this thing, boys will be boys. That's just how things have been, and that's just the ways they are, and that's just not how it needs to be. It's 2021. I'll say that's just unacceptable now. So that's not right. And one interesting factor right here was Title IX cases. This is at Oklahoma University, and it was shown from the years about 2015 through 2019. It was about 145 cases a year, and it's showing the statistics of all the Title IX cases that got brought forth. So right there you can see the two biggest ones, the sexual assault and sexual harassment, which happened about identical rates. And then we come down to dating or domestic violence, stalking. Then you get down to the sexual exploitation, gender discrimination, and then other. So as the farther along you go with the post-secondary, that's where the more you're going to see the sexual assault and sexual harassment protection discrimination on there. And looking more towards around the middle school and high school, those aren't going to be as high, and it's going to be more of the gender discrimination and stuff like that. And the thing I really like this picture right here, because everyone deserves the right to an equal education and safety at your school. I just don't understand how some people don't believe everyone can't have an equal education and be safe at school. Because one, if you don't feel safe at school or feel like you're being treated equally, you're not going to learn as well. And that's just hurting not just that person, that's hurting the whole community and society as a whole. And so some ways that we can kind of bring all this issues and concerns and what is Title IX into context is through the use of court cases. And I found about 3 interesting court cases. I think that covers a wide range of issues that really helps us better understand Title IX and what it actually does. So the first court case that I found was Leffel versus Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletics Association. So Leffel was a student at D. Pierre High School, and she was denied permission to qualify for the varsity baseball team at the school, which, like I said, that wouldn't be a big deal. But the big deal is the school didn't offer no separate female team for females to participate. So there's no softball team or a female baseball team for the Leffel to participate. So right there is discriminating just because of her sexual orientation, for her being a female. And the school officials even quoted this: "The Board of Control shall prohibit all types of interscholastic activity, including boys and girls competing with or against with each other." So that right there is pretty much just saying we have full control over you, and we're going to decide if you're going to play or not, if we think you deserve it or we like you or anything like that. And that right there, that quote in the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletics Association Constitution, that right there straight up went against Title IX. And the ruling, which I'm really glad it happened, is declared the defendant's exclusion in the class they represent from participation in varsity interscholastic program, where such a program is provided for male students, violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, which is covered under Title IX. Just because there's no female team offered, that's what violated, and they said she couldn't participate. And I've personally seen this as well. I'm a first-year teacher, and I coach baseball. I actually had a student, she came out and wanted to try out for baseball. And we let her. I said we let her try out. We kept all the stats. We left all of our data, all that from tryouts. And unfortunately, she didn't make the team. And the parents wanted to come up and say that it was we didn't let her on there because she was a girl, because she was a female. And that nothing arose from that because we had all the data, all the documentation for us, and that we also offered a softball team as well as a slow pitch softball team as well. So we had offered that with them. So that wasn't we squashed that bug real quick. But seeing that right there just shows me how important Title IX was, because I wouldn't want to discriminate her just because she was a female. She didn't make the team just because, unfortunately, she wasn't as good enough for the kids we kept. Another one is Jackson versus Birmingham Board of Education. This goes on to show, like I said, fighting against discrimination for adults / teachers / coaches as well. The issue was a high school basketball coach, Roderick Jackson. He claimed he was fired because he was complaining about the conditions of the girls' basketball team at the school. So they had insufficient funding. They barely had enough money for jerseys. They were not receiving equal treatment as the male basketball team. And Jackson took them to court and claimed he had the private right of action to sue against the school for discriminating on him because he was speaking out against these unequal treatments. He was speaking out against the school, saying they were going against Title IX. And at first, the Federal District Court and Appellate Court ruled against Jackson. But eventually, this court case went to the Supreme Court, and they ruled under Title IX it protects people from retaliation for reporting sex discrimination. And so that gave Jackson the right to pursue his claim in court. So that right there is saying, as a teacher, an educator, a coach, you are protected under Title IX if you're speaking out against these inequalities, this discrimination based on their sex. Just because they're females doesn't mean they shouldn't receive as much funding as the male sports. And this right here really affects me and every other educator out there, because as educators, we got to step up. We have to step up to the plate and respond to these actions. We got to step up for the students, for the kids, say, hey, this isn't right. They're not getting treated fairly as everyone else. So right here, this just goes on to show that it's not just protecting students, it's also protecting teachers as well, because he got terminated from his job and he lost his coaching and teaching job as well. And one of the last court cases I'm going to talk about is I really think it's going to make a bunch of discussions in this coming years, and especially like in 2021 and going on. This was against Gloucester County School Board versus Gigi. This one was a big one. This was with a transgender student. So Gigi was a transgender student and was diagnosed with gender dysmorphia. And the school principal said that Gigi could use the boys' bathroom because Gigi was born as a female, and her gender dysmorphia claimed that Gigi was a male. And that was not a big deal. From there, the school principal gave Gigi the permission. But what happened was the community became knowledge, and they found it out, and they had a bunch of protests and calls regarding Gigi and saying that Gigi shouldn't be using the boys' bathroom; he should be using the girls' bathroom because she's a female. The school eventually passed a policy saying that only single-stall unisex restrooms corresponding with their sex assigned at birth, but that never came to fruition. And with this big whole ordeal, the Department of Education got involved with it too, because it issued opinion letters to schools about separation of school restrooms regarding Title IX. The letter pretty much said that under federally funded schools, transgender students are going to use restrooms that align with their gender identity. So that's where the big talking point is. Just because someone's gender identity compared to what they biologically are, that's going to make a bunch of conversations and debates and disagreements and whatnot. So once the Department of Education sent out this opinion letter, it wasn't a published letter or document, it was an opinion letter. Gigi read that, so they sued the school district because of the opinion letter. And the ruling on this was the judgment was vacated and remained the case of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit to further consideration in light of the guidance document issued by the Department of Education. So right there, it was kind of a sticky situation because they never really had to deal with a transgender student suing under Title IX. Because when Title IX was created, I don't think at that point people were really considering transgenders, people that identify as an opposite gender as they biologically were born. I don't think they took that into consideration. And now with the whole movements of all the movements, transgender movements, and the movements I spoke on before, this is really it's a hot topic now in schools. And we actually had this situation at school. I didn't teach the student, but there was a student down the hall in 8th grade. She identified as transgender. She was a she, and she wanted to be, and she said she was a guy. She identified as a male. So I say I wasn't part of the conversations in there, so I don't know how that went. But like I said, it's prevalent in schools these days. The more and more you look on the news, on social media, there's more and more issues regarding transgender students and even transgender educators as well. But under Title IX, it says no discrimination based on your sex. So that's what the big whole ordeal and topic is. But like I said, Title IX it's a civil rights movement. I say no matter what your sex is, your sexual orientation, your gender identity, it's a civil rights movement. It's protecting your civil rights. You are not going to lose your rights just because of your sex. And so I think this is just this ruling right here. That's going to show you right there. This is going to be a topic that's going to be discussed, I believe, for years and years. And I believe as the more we go on, the more acceptance we're going to be, which I believe from, if you look 20 years in the past to now, we're way more acceptant than we were before. And I really like the direction we're going. And like I say, here's the references I used. But just going back to Title IX, like I said, I want to stress, it's not just a female legal aspect. It's a civil rights law that's protecting every single one, so they cannot be discriminated upon their sex. So that's the one thing I really want people to understand. And I really believe in the future, talking about, like I said, the discriminations on female athletics, sexual harassment, all that stuff, and then going into the Gigi's case with that, I really think that Title IX is going to be under scrutiny from years to come, and it possibly even be amended as well and changed to be more up to date in today's terms. So I believe Title IX is one of the most important things in schools, and especially at middle school, like I said, just for everyone, due to it being a civil rights issue.